32 picks have been made in the 2025 NFL Draft. Let's do 32 more. Yes, this is a second round mock draft for all of you sickos. If you're watching this right now, you better be subscribed to this channel. We've got so much NFL draft content for you, including ones and videos already on the page. Yes, prospect profiles for wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, all the lot. Let's not waste any more time, though, Hayden. About 4 hours of sleep underneath our belts. Our brains are fried. Let's do this. It's time. Second round mock draft. I'm amazed at how many great players are still on the board and on the clock. This is the Cleveland Browns. I think everyone is expecting quarterback here. What's your opinion?
It could be a quarterback. They also just got that extra first rounder for next year to evaluate next year's draft class. I think if it was a quarterback, it would be Jalen Milroe, but evaluations on him are all over the board. So there's some good corners. There's some good edge rushers in this class. So I'm curious to see which way you go.
So I've cited, at least last night when they moved out of pick number 2, that if this was the second round that they were targeting, we've seen that someone in the past with like Jimmy Clausen after being selected in the second round. And if their view is, oh, we can get a first round quarterback the next year, he was replaced. Josh Rosen milled the first round, was replaced the next year by Kyler Murray. But those were coaching staff changes. Uh, Kevin Stefanski doesn't think he's going to get fired. I don't think he's going to get fired. And so why even spend the number 33 overall pick when your whole goal of this draft was to accumulate more assets? Why spend the 36th overall pick on a quarterback either? I don't think they're going to do it. And instead, I think they're just going to try to accumulate as much talent as possible. Running back is definitely in play with one of these picks. But I'm going to go with Luther Burden here out of Missouri
Ooh.
in a somewhat Elijah Moore plus role for them. You remember he manufactured a whole bunch of touches for Elijah Moore. Obviously, Luther Burden to me is a better prospect, a better player, and create a whole bunch after the catch. And he adds to this wide receiver trio that they now have that we didn't expect to be in this spot because we all expected them to have Travis Hunter as the second overall pick.
Yeah, that'd be Cedric Tillman's the X receiver. Jerry Judy kind of broke out as that flanker, and then Luther Burden would be the slot player in this offense. We know they want to pass the ball, which makes the not having a quarterback thing a little bit problematic here. But yeah, I can see this. Like, there's teams that might have a first round grade on him. I've also seen reports that he's a little bit more of a media creation. So I still think his range for this next like round is pretty wide still, but he also has the talent to be worthwhile as a 33rd overall pick.
Houston Texans traded out of round 1. They now have 2 second round selections, including 34 overall. Their needs are still very high up there, in my opinion. They couldn't get Tyler Booker. He was already off the board. I'm going to go with Ursery, the tackle out of Minnesota. I know Jake Fisher played right tackle for them last year. He was a second round pick, but to me, they are simply trying to get as many players as possible that can play multiple spots and figure out with their front four. You can either pick an interior offensive lineman too. There's a whole bunch to select from. I'm going to go with the massive man out of Minnesota in Ursery.
Right. Yeah. They traded down. I understand that. This was kind of like the cliff that the reason why Simmons goes, Connerly goes in round 1 is because the next group of tackles is very more hit and miss. He's 6'6", 331 pounds in 92nd percentile in the movement skills, weight adjusted 40-yard dash. You can use him as a puller. I think he's going to be a left tackle in the league. And I think he was pretty smart as well. They're just like some of the finishing power
Yeah.
and like a little bit of the motor was a little bit of the weaknesses on Ursery's tape.
And Cam Robinson is penciled in as their starter at left tackle right now. So Ursery can either be that immediately or take a hold of that job as the season goes along. Okay, Titans are back in the clock. Cam Ward. Look, there's some great players. I'm going to continue to mention this. Mike Green, Donovan Ezeraku, all these prospects. But if you're taking a guy number 1 overall at quarterback, why not give him a wide receiver on top of this? And why not go with one of his former teammates at Washington State? This is our guy in Kyle Williams.
Yeah, my wide receiver 5, 32nd overall prospect. I believe I'm the highest ranker on Kyle Williams. I would love this fit. You need the like kind of manufactured touch player in this offense, and then he gets to learn from Calvin Ridley, who actually mentioned as a little bit of a comp for Kyle Williams. Like, I know that he like seems like a gadget guy because he's 5'11", 190, and you see the speed, but he was winning as an X receiver, beating press man coverage. So I'm pretty optimistic that he's going to be a round 2 selection. And he had the most 20 plus mile an hour plays in the draft class, according to the tracking data.
Back on the clock, the Cleveland Browns. We know they went Mason Graham to pair next to Myles Garrett in their pass rushing force. Uh, Why not
Interesting.
continue to add to that group? Why
Yep.
not? And this team really cares about pass rushing juice and athleticism. This is where I have Mike Green out of Marshall going.
Is this GM Miles Garrett or is this GM Andrew Barry making this selection? I think with the Mike Green stuff, real quick, I had him ranked 10th overall based off of what his on-field stuff is. There's probably most of the league just has him not graded because of the off-field stuff. So who knows whether the Browns cleared him or
Well,
whatever.
I think we can
Uh,
kind of lean in one way or the other with the Cleveland Browns and which side of the aisle they might be on that decision.
yeah, yeah. So he's an excellent football player, but you just never know.
Mike Green is the pick. That brings us to the Las Vegas Raiders. Well, if you're going to take a running back at number 6 overall, you better beef up your offensive line. Again, there's a whole number here in terms of tackles that might move inside with Trapio or Mbao. I'm going to go with Jonah Savainia out
Yeah,
of
he's
Arizona. He's played like all
brick
over, man.
house.
He's played
Yeah.
345 snaps at left tackle, 364 snaps at right tackle, and then, also over 800 snaps at right guard too. So get him in the building and figure out where he's best.
He was a top 50 player for me. I actually had him graded very similarly to Booker and Gray Zabel. He's a really, really thickly built player. I think he's going to be a guard in the league. He's 6'4", 328 pounds, but also 34-inch arms. So the only reason why he's more of a guard is just I think that his recovery ability was not as good as like some of the tackles. I think he plays a little bit too upright in his stance, but he's a powerful, powerful player. 4.95 in the 40-yard dash. I think that his upside is like Pro Bowl level guard material, even though he played at tackle at Arizona.
New England Patriots on the board. We know they selected offensive lineman Will Campbell in round 1. So you can either go edge if you want to add that to Mike Vrabel and what he brings to the table in Donovan Ezeraku. But I still think you need to build the infrastructure up for your quarterback. And Mike Vrabel has talked about he likes big bodies at the wide receiver position. So I'm going to give him one of our favorites. I don't know if the league appreciates Jaden Higgins as much as we do, but I think Mike Vrabel might.
I've seen reports both ways. I've seen reports that he might be a first round pick, which we obviously know didn't happen, but that also signals that he can go early second round. He's one of my top 10 best available players. So yeah, I can see this one is more like the opposite end of the spectrum for Steph Diggs and the other guys that they have on the roster.
And I could see, Trey Harris as another possibility here, or if you even want to go bigger and more slot, like Jack Besh, for example. But I'm going to give them Jaden Higgins and feel really, really good about it. And, Alec Ayumenor has size too, and maybe the NFL loves him on top of it with the Mac
Yeah.
Hollins. I mean, you get Mac Hollins and Ayumenor on the same offense.
And then
Fun stuff.
who exactly is Drake May throwing the ball to?
Yeah, who is catching the football? Good
Yeah.
question. Chicago Bears, 2 second rounders, pick 39, then just a couple after that, pick 41. There were a whole bunch of spots where they could have gone at the first round, number 10 overall. I am going to go back here with Donovan Ezeraku as an edge rusher to pair with Montez Sweat. And then you get Dayo Odingbo kind of cutting inside in third down pass rushing situations. And you kind of have your trio of pass rushers up front along with Grady Jarrett.
I thought you were going to go with my double Ohio State running backs at 39 and 41.
I mean, that would be
Travion,
so much
who they
fun.
love, and then go with Quinshawn just for the hammer. Ezeraku is somebody I thought was going to go round 1. He's got the length. He's got the athleticism. It's just the amount of power that he plays with has to get better. And you see some of these smaller edge rushers just takes them a little extra time to kind of develop like the full, just how are you going to beat these NFL tackles? So they're so damn big and strong.
Saints shored up their offensive line with Kelvin Banks in round 1. There's a whole bunch of needs that they have. I mean, I look at cornerback immediately, and there are corners on the table here in terms of Will Johnson, in terms of Trey Amos. My brain wants to give them Trey Amos after they traded away Marshawn Lattimore. But then my brain also realizes they literally don't have a starting quarterback on their team. So where should my brain go in this direction?
My highest ranked player would be Jalen Milrow, and the second one's Trey Amos. So those are the two guys. Will Johnson's also there. I had Will Johnson ranked pretty low. I think it's like pretty medical driven at this point because even if you like don't fully appreciate him, he was probably going to go round 1. So now, if it's medical stuff, you never know where he's going to go. So like I think Milrow and Trey Amos would be interesting here. They've been linked to Shedeur Sanders for a while. I've also heard that they don't actually really like him. So I don't know.
I'm actually going to go because I'm nervous that if you select Jalen Milrow here, he's expected to start like immediately, you know? Uh, I don't know if that's the situation you want to place Jalen Milroe in. And instead, I'm probably going to go Tyler Shuck here. Don't feel tremendous about it. Um, he is a 26-year-old quarterback that is kind of terrified of contact, but there are also other counteracting reports to that some teams absolutely love him. And if you need a starter in year one, Tyler Shuck might be your guy.
Yeah, they've been linked to him for a while. Like Nick Underhill from New Orleans Football has like said that they like Shuck for like 2 months. So I can believe it. He would be out there and starting over Spencer Rattler pretty much guaranteed week one.
You know what? Change of brain. They're going
Uh
to
oh.
move up from the third or the fourth round and select Tyler Shuck. And instead, all we're going to do here is get a starter at cornerback and I'm going to go Trey Amos.
Yeah, Trey Amos is somebody I absolutely loved. He was inside my top 30 players, and he was actually my corner two in the draft class. He's just like big, he's fast, and I thought he was physical. He like kind of knocks guys off their spot, and then he also is really good in zones. Like I was like, all of a sudden when I was like reading my notes, I was like, how is this guy bad? So he's not going to last long.
You and I like Caleb Williams. We love the selection of Colson Loveland. We really like Rome Odunze. We really like DJ Moore. What else does Ben Johnson need? He needs himself an explosive running back who's also awesome in pass protection. Let's give Ben Johnson freaking Trevion Henderson, and let's take the Chicago Bears offense to the moon.
I would be stunned if Travion Henderson makes it past both 39 and 41. Maurice Jones-Drew on Greg Rosenthal's pod just said that, oh, yeah, I was texting Eric Bieniemy, who loves Travion Henderson. That's the running backs coach there. So
New York Jets, Armand Mimbu was their selection at number 7. Back on the clock here at 42. I think they need just secondary help in general after losing some pieces there. And I'm going to have some fun here. I'm going to give them Nick Emenwuri out of South Carolina. Trust Aaron Glenn and company to understand how to utilize this talent with freak athleticism that can play safety. I've even seen someone to project him out to cornerback. But move him around, get him into advantageous spots, or let him roam the back half too, if you want as well.
yeah, he was my 46 overall player. Did not see round one tape, even though he had round one trait. 6'3", 227 pounds, was an absolute freakazoid. You saw that. He had like a 100-yard pick six against LSU, another pick six against Kentucky. I thought he was kind of late and kind of still like understanding football. But that's like the perfect project for Aaron Glenn out there. I thought you were going to give him Mason Taylor there, where the calculus was like, let's go offensive line instead of Tyler Warren, and then you kind of do the 2v2s, but it's also deep tight end class. So maybe that it's a 3-piece set here we're talking about, and they draft Ferguson, Fandon, somebody like that in the third round.
Yeah, Mason Taylor was the other possibility. There's just so many good players out there.
There really is.
Again,
Yeah.
I mean, we still have a long way to go, and there's a lot of good picks left. And that brings us to the San Francisco 49ers. Again, Michael Williams at pick 11. I'm going to go actually offensive line here, maybe surprisingly. And their fan base really wants to get rid of Jake Brindle. The issue is Jake Brindle's a really good athlete and has been like a late bloomer as a professional. There's also one of your favorite players in this draft who is an awesome athlete at center, and Jared Wilson out of Georgia, who can be moved and pulled out in space or get to the second level. And it's almost like a one-to-one fit. He might not have to start immediately, but it's like a nice next step here for moving on from Jake Brindle to Jared Wilson.
Yeah, when I submitted my top
Protege.
100, yeah, he's a monster. When I submitted my top 100 players, he's one of the guys I ranked higher than almost everybody in consensus rankings. 21-year-old early declare, 4.84 40-yard dash. Let me repeat that, 4.84. We did not make a big enough deal about this with the NFL Combine. That is ridiculous. He's 310 pounds. 4.84. That's faster than Restrepo. So Georgia, apparently the football character is awesome too. He needs to get a little bit stronger, but like early declares from Georgia with elite athleticism, like they don't last.
Men, if you're starting to notice your hair thinning when you look in the mirror, trust me, you're not alone. I wear a hat for every single podcast that we record. We know that life just gets busier and busier, and it can feel like there's not enough time in the day to do something about it. So you should try Hims Hair Loss Solutions, which you can avoid jumping through a bunch of frustrating hoops and get access to treatment without even leaving your home. Plus, think about what you can achieve in the next 3 to 6 months. People learn languages. They learn golf. That's what I'm doing. Instead, you can fix your hairline. You can grow more hair. It's exactly how long it takes for Hims to show that the treatments work. You can choose from personalized chewables, oral sprays, and serums to find out which one is best for you. And once again, the process is simple and 100% online. So there are no uncomfortable doctor's visits, which would be by far the worst part of this entire process. So start your free online visit today at hims.com/underdog. That is HIMS.com/underdog for your personalized hair loss treatment options. hims.com/underdog. Results vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Prescription products require online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. So everyone linked only wide receivers to the Dallas Cowboys at number 12. We know they went with Tyler Booker. That just means we're going to go with a wide receiver here, right? Some downfield players, maybe like Jalen Royals or Trey Harris. Nope, I'm not doing it. Running back, also a possibility. There's a lot on the board. Caleb Johnson or Quinshon Judkins or Dylan Sampson. Nope, I'm not going to do it. Jerry Jones is just going to frustrate the hell out of this fan base. And instead, I'm going to give them a 25-year-old interior defensive lineman in Texas DT, Darius Alexander.
Wow, that's surprising to me. I think they like Mozzie Smith a little bit more than you do, uh, but we'll
I don't
see.
know how that's possible. Like, he's really bad.
Yeah, I mean, this last year was better than the previous, so we'll see. Yeah, apparently, like everyone likes Darius Alexander. He's super strong, like a bull rush guy. But like to me, when I was watching him, I'm like, how am I supposed to do the math here? I agree that he's strong, but he's also 25 against Toledo's schedule. How am I supposed to do the math there? So we'll see what happens there.
Indianapolis Colts, Tyler Warren, round one, like so many predicted. Athletes. We know that is what Chris Ballard loves. And we talked about it that after this year, currently the only edge rusher under contract is Leatu Latu. And so I'm going to give them Landon Jackson out of Arkansas, who's one of the best athletes among edge rushers in this class.
Yeah, Landon Jackson got after Will Campbell on tape. He had some pretty nice wins just in general. Had a good combine. So I can see this one. We're like getting to the range where like, damn, like Will Johnson still available. That's like going to be like a huge storyline there. There was like a lot of injury stuff with Will Johnson, so we'll see how long he lasts for you.
LA Rams. I mean, there's so many different directions they can go. And this is right now their only pick in the first two rounds after, acquiring a 2026 first rounder from the Atlanta Falcons. We'll see how that one turns out for them. Look, there's cornerbacks on the board. We know about Will Johnson. We know about some other players. There's Carson Swessinger at linebacker, which I think would be a really interesting piece for them as well.
They would love him. I can guarantee you they love him.
Well, don't change my mind. I also know that Jordan Rodriguez has hinted that this team might be looking for new offensive line pieces and specifically at right tackle. So I think I'm going to go with Ozzie Trapillo out of Boston College.
Like a legitimate giant, 6'8". He should get on the basketball court, but he
And they
moves
got
pretty.
big offensive linemen.
They really do. So yeah, there's some concern with Rob Havenstein, just like injury wise, and then also like long term replacing him. Yes, we'll see where Ozzie kind of goes. I think originally was like kind of destined for the third round, but the more I listened to other analysts, it seemed like more he's trending towards a second round draft pick. Like when you're 6'8" and you can move like he does, it's hard to lose. So we'll see what happens there. I was hoping you were going to say Jalen Milroe. Like if I can just pick a prospect to a team just for entertainment purposes, like I would love to see Sean McVay just see what happens in the quarterback run game, kind of be like a little change of pace for Matthew Stafford and some packages like that. That's what I want. I'm not sure if it's actually going to happen though.
So Diana Rossini reported that the Rams were trying to trade up. She reported that it was going to be for Tedero McMillan. And so a wide receiver or a pass catcher could be here. So even like Mason Taylor, for example, adding him to the tight end room, I think is a possibility. But I'm going to go with Ozzie Trapillo and, continue to upgrade because their offensive line dealt with a whole bunch of injuries last year too. Arizona Cardinals added Walter Nolan, interior defensive line and pass rusher in the first round. I'm just going to give them Will Johnson, who I'm sure like a lot of their fans maybe at some point might have mocked at number 16 overall.
That's me. I mocked him, Will Johnson.
There you go. And instead, they get him at 47 overall. So rejoice, Arizona Cardinals fans.
Do I get mock draft points for this?
No, you do not. Miami Dolphins. They also need corner. Jalen Ramsey, uncertain situation moving forward. There are other guys. Some guy named Storm Duck out there as a possible starter. Siobhan Ravel out of ECU, East Carolina. Dealt with an ACL injury last year, but very long, very tall, and an athlete on top of it. So I'm going to give them Siobhan Ravel to continue to work on this defense.
He was probably rating into the first round before that injury. Didn't play that much this last year, but did play Michigan and held his own there. He's a great athlete, got the size profile. Great backstory on him as well for when he's on the clock. Make sure you're paying attention to the story that the TV will tell you.
Cincinnati Bengals. I kind of want to give them Mason Taylor, but I'm not. I'm going to keep giving them defensive pieces because they had just a total lack of talent on that side of the ball. And this is where I have Carson Swessinger, your favorite player from UCLA of all time. I think he's an instant starter for this team because we also heard that Jermaine Pratt, I believe, asked for a trade earlier on this offseason. And so he was a former starter for this team. So Swessinger steps into that spot.
I think he's going to be a top 50 pick. He's there in my rankings. His zone instincts, like he'll just like slide over, read the quarterback, and absolute fly to the backside route concepts for interceptions and pass deflections. He made 1,000,000 tackles. It was like 93rd percentile in terms of tackles per game. And he did this after being a walk-on, just like kept going up the depth chart and fully broke out. Like his zone instincts, and then he was like 242 pounds. He's a good athlete. Like I don't know what I'm not supposed to like about this.
By the way, if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button. We have NFL draft grades coming at you immediately after round 7 on Saturday of the NFL draft. I just want to take a pause here for a moment and look at the board. Nick Scorton, still available. All of the wide receivers.
Yep.
And Jack Besh and Jalen Royals and Trey Harris. I think Trey Harris here to the Seattle Seahawks would make a ton of sense as like a vertical presence that they don't necessarily have. Look at the running backs still available. Quinshon Judkins, Scatabo, Dylan Sampson, Caleb Johnson. Like, we still got it loaded, and we're only halfway through the second round.
Yeah, I think even some of these defensive backs, Kevin Winston, I think is well liked. Benjamin Morrison has like maybe like late round 1 tape. He's dealing with some injuries. So this is like where you have to start making some of those injury risk decisions there. And I'll even say for Seattle, like I see a couple interior offensive linemen. Like Zabel's not fixing all of the interior offensive linemen. Like you could go with Membao, Tate Routledge. There's Dylan Fairchild. I think all of these guys could be in play.
Now the question, the one name that's still on the board here that we have not discussed is Shedeur Sanders. Your thoughts?
We're kind of approaching the Bronny James line with Shedeur Sanders, who went 55th overall. So if it sounds like there was just like not many day one grades. We talked about it on our podcast about him that I had a firm day 2 grade on him. It sounded like you were kind of there as well. Like we see like some traits with him, but not difference making traits. And like he was not like a can't miss prospect just because the way the offense was constructed, and then also this like retreating problem that he had. So this to me is like a more appropriate range for Shedeur Sanders. And I just want to give us a big shout out for only mentioning him on our recap show like once or twice, where versus the TV broadcast where it was like once or twice per draft pick. It was so annoying.
So I asked this question because I am going to give Seattle a quarterback here. The Sam Darnold contract doesn't have to be a long one. John Schneider has taken athletic quarterbacks in the past. I'm going to give Seattle Jalen Milroe as a player that they can develop as in Clint Kubiak's offense, which is, very much deep play action, under center. We can attack with vertical shots. And I also think the movement capabilities with the opposite of this outside wide zone, where you can get some bootleg stuff, where you can get some action against that with quarterback mobility. I think Jalen Milroe is like a really nice candidate that might be under the radar here for the Seattle Seahawks.
What does Mike McDonald know about rushing quarterbacks, though? I mean, start doing some math. This would be fascinating. I mean, yeah, this would be great.
51, Denver Broncos. Jedi Barron out of nowhere at pick number 20 for them in round 1. What a DB room they have for Vance Joseph. Now let's add to that defense. I know he wants a joker on offense, like we talked about. There's pretty big drop off to me between like Trevion Henderson and like a real pass catching running back here.
Yeah.
Cam Scatterbo does that, but just maybe not to the effect that they wanted. And then among like tight ends and wide receivers, I'm just not sure if it like fits the perfect bigger body. Like I thought about Jalen Knoll at this point, but let's add to this pass rushing juice and let's give them Nick Scorton to already what they have in Nick Benito and Zach Allen up the middle. Mm-hmm. What a group they're building on defense.
Yeah, I think they can use one more powerful edge rusher. Benito's like more of the stand-up off ball, stand-up outside linebacker. Nick Scorton played like at 280, went to the pro day like at two in the 250s and looked way more athletic. I thought there was a chance that he was going to go round one. You just have to believe in the Purdue tape, not the Texas A&M tape. But he looked like the Purdue version of himself at the pro day. So uh, I think he's got a lot of upside.
Seattle Seahawks, their third pick already. Again, they went Jalen Milroe just a few picks ago. For John Schneider, who opened the door and Pandora's box of adding interior pieces in Gray Zabel, who's an awesome athlete. Let's continue on because you can't have success with Sam Darnold. You can't have success with Jalen Milroe if you don't have a good fabric and interior of the pocket. I'm going to give them another great athlete in Tate Ratledge out of Georgia.
Yeah, I was just stunned that he did not get that much pre-draft hype. He is like a 95th percentile athlete, multi-year starter at Georgia. I was just like, what am I missing here?
And look, they've taken some right guards in recent years, and to me, they just haven't developed. And so you can get Zabel starting at left guard and Tate Ratledge starting at
Yep.
right guard. There it is. Talk about like on the wall having what picks and what positions we're going to fill, and the Seahawks doing that with their first three selections.
What would be interesting about that is Zabel's like 6'5", 6'6", and so is Ratledge. Like those are like
Yeah.
really tall guards. Like Sam Darnold's going to be on his damn tippy toes.
Okay, that brings us to 53. This is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Corners an area of need. Benjamin Morrison, I believe you mentioned, has like hip injuries in his past,
Yeah.
but I know people believe he's very intelligent. I know some evaluators that I trust liked him near the top of the cornerback list, and so this might be viewed as a major value in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, definitely so. 21 years old, only played 6 games this last year. Hip injury. I believe he's had 2 hip surgeries, which like scares me when we're talking about corner. But I thought that his tape was really, really sweet. Kind of like a jack of all trades. I saw him in man coverage and zone coverage. He was, I thought, just like a pretty well-rounded corner. It just comes down to the damn hip.
Matthew Golden was the Packers' first round wide receiver, first time in a very, very, very long time. But the position that was predicted for them for often was either cornerback or some type of defensive lineman. And they really care about athleticism. And there's one defensive lineman on the board that fulfills that, with also being quite young, just 21 years of age. That is TJ Sanders out of South Carolina.
Just really long, really twitchy,
That's
and
so
then
tight.
yeah, his pressure rate was at 13%, and that's pretty wild for somebody on, like, the interior, like, where he was. Like, for example, Mason, Graham was at 10%, so we're talking about a discount, and he's about the same size as him, long and twitchy, pretty fun player.
Los Angeles Chargers, foundation back Omarion Hampton in round one at number 22. They're back on the board here at 55 overall. Simply put, they don't have a tight end on the roster, basically. And Mason Taylor can be that for them. Immediately step in. I'm not going to say this is like definitely pushing the boundaries of helping Justin Herbert and making sure this is like the second best pass catcher on the team behind Lad McConkey. But you and I both believe that Mason Taylor's best football is ahead of him. Super fluid player, super fluid athlete, and I thought improved every single season at LSU.
Super reliable player and definitely has some, like, good athleticism on top of it. So, yeah, he would be, like, just like a sit over the middle and run these little quick outs and then burst up field from there, and he made some nice acrobatic plays as well. So, he seemed like a top 50 player, so we'll see where he goes. This is just, like, halfback and then tight end with this wide receiver group, this edge group, this defense tackle group. It would be, like, shocking to me, but we'll see.
Well, it's also on my radar. Daniel Jeremiah works for the Los Angeles Chargers. Kept mentioning that, oh, I could see Mason Taylor being a end of round one type talent. Maybe if Omarion Hampton wasn't there, that Mason Taylor could have been the Chargers' first round
Interesting.
selection. Just a thought. But now they get
Okay.
him at 55. Buffalo Bills, 2 second rounders here to close out. 56 overall. That's where we go with Kevin Winston. They've had previously the foundation of their defense was the back half and that safety spot. They've gone through chops and changes there, and now they add a young player to it in Kevin Winston out of Penn State.
I didn't see much of a difference between him and Starks. You're gonna have to go back to the 2023 tape due to injury, and please ignore Harold Fandon cooking him one on one. But aside from that, the tape was really good. Can kind of play everywhere, good tackler, the whole thing. So I was a fan of his.
Okay, Carolina Panthers, T-Mac, Tetaroa McMillan at number 8 overall. I've seen a lot of frustration that I can't believe they didn't do defense. Well, they get Derek Brown back, and they spent literally every single penny and every single cent on the defensive side of the ball in free agency. And they brought in a whole bunch of these edge rushers in this area. People were expecting Walter Nolan to possibly be their pick at number 8. They also brought in Princely, the edge rusher who played with him at Ole Miss, and that's where I'm going to go here.
Yeah, he was somebody that like really stands out. If you look at pass rush win rate, he's got some pretty good athleticism as well. He had a couple games where he was dominant, like even against some of the top end tackles in this class. So senior, 23 years old. I thought he was a pretty fun prospect.
Yeah, and 6'4", 255-ish, which is, a lot bigger than the 6'1", 235 types, 245 types that were going in round 1, too. I mean, JTT's there, too. You got Braden Swinson. This is kind of a nice little area for the round 2-ish edges, and so they might still be able to get one at 57 overall. This could also be an offensive lineman. Again, they brought in a whole bunch of those guys at the same time. Okay, Houston Texans back on the clock. Oh, when they made the trade for Christian Kirk, we're like, this makes sense. Contract year, vertical slot. You need something because Tank Dell is dealing with a massive, massive injury. Then when you and I went through prospect profiles, we compared Jalen Noel favorably to Christian Kirk as a vertical slot player who can also play a bit on the outside. So why not just pair them up here, Hayden, and give CJ Stroud a bit more of a boost offensively?
They still need a third wide receiver for this season. So yeah, it'd be really interesting. And Christian Kirk has played some outside. So I think Jalen Noel would be the slot. And then Christian Kirk goes back to the perimeter in 3 wide receiver sets, but they also play a bunch of 2 wide receiver sets as well. I love like these like internships, like these prospects taking an internship from the guy that we comped them to. Like
Cam Jurgens to Jason Kelsey, all that
it's the
stuff.
best.
Yes.
It's the best.
Another layer to this, Nick Caley obviously just spent time with the LA Rams. LA Rams love to use the full speed motions, the sharp motions, whatever you want to call them, fly motions. Jalen Noel can be that guy. He can be Tutu Atwell-esque in his rookie season, and then you build and build and build on it from there. So I really like Jalen Noel with Nick Caley. That would be a great, great combination. Okay, Baltimore Ravens back on the clock. Malachi Starks in round 1. In round 2, you add to this offensive line. They've, again, chopped and changed some of the pieces over the years, still playing at quite a high level. I'm going to give them Marcus Mbao out of Purdue, who has played a bunch of right tackle and a bunch of right guard. Maybe here he can slide into left guard for the Baltimore Ravens.
Most people project him as a guard, as do I. So played right tackle, like you mentioned, but he's somebody I think that can excel out in space, like a good athlete. And obviously we've seen that at times with Baltimore.
Moving on, Detroit Lions, Tylik Williams out of Ohio State as an interior piece. I still believe that they are geared towards helping Aiden Hutchinson and taking some pressure off him, either with a rotation and now a player opposite him. So again, we mentioned that there's a whole bunch of edge rushers available. I'm going to go with LSU's Braden Swinson.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if it's Swinson and JTT, polar opposites. Swinson's like pass rush juice, like more of a rotational guy, and JTT is like, I'm just kind of collapsing the pocket with all this power. Actually pretty similar to Tyleek, so that'd be fun pairings either way. But Braden Swinson, like you like start organizing these edge rushers only on pass rush win rate, and like he's like at the very top.
Yeah, the JTT one would be LA Rams-esque from last year, where you take 2 teammates who played next to each other a bit often, and we know that Brad Holmes spent some time, a long time, in the Rams organization. But I'm going to give him Braden Swinson here. Okay, Washington Commanders, Josh Connerly to either play one of the guard spots or the right tackle spot now for the Washington Commanders. They're back in the clock here at 61 overall. I haven't heard a peep about Brian Robinson this entire offseason.
I don't know what you would say. Yeah. What do you say?
Let's replace him with Quinchon Judkins, who I understand the underlying metrics community does not love his forced missed tackles per attempt. I just saw a dude who produced at a super high level at Ole Miss and then kind of became the Dave Montgomery to Trevon Henderson's Jahmyr Gibbs in their Detroit Lions-esque backfield with Ohio State when he transferred up to that team. I love the speed and the juice that he actually brings when off-tackle runs, which Chip Kelly got him on a whole bunch of them. And this would add some offensive firepower, I think, to the Commanders.
That his burst within the first 10 yards was pretty sweet for somebody as like thick as he is. And he would have plenty of opportunities with the Jaden Daniels inside zone read game. So it'd be a pretty fun selection for him.
Okay, Buffalo Bills back on the clock again. Maxwell Harrison, another defensive back, and Kevin Winston as a safety. And so I'm going to go again, still defense here and go with a big body on the interior and Alfred Collins
Oh
out of
yeah.
Texas. So they certainly have attacked offense in previous years. Keon Coleman, we know Khalil Shakir, we know the running
Kincaid.
game, and James Cook might not be totally happy, but they
Yeah.
like mix and match offensively with the pieces they already have. And this is a big investment on the defensive side of the ball this year.
So they got Ed Oliver, and if to kind of unlock Ed Oliver as like a three tech pass rusher, like you need a big nose. They have a 34-year-old on the roster, but this would be replacing him, getting like the nose tackle, really thick body to kind of unleash Ed Oliver and their edge rushers. They've got like a kind of deep edge rushing group that they'll rotate, so he would be part of the interior guys to kind of unlock everybody else.
Kansas City Chiefs back on the clock, pick 63. They lost Justin Reed in free agency, so I'm just going to give them another safety to maybe plug and play in their defense, and that's Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame.
Yeah, really smart player. This would make a ton of sense. I think that's something that Spagnuolo really appreciates, because they asked this secondary to just do so much out there. So kind of played everywhere as well. So this is like
Yeah.
classic Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah, I mean, he's played over 400 snaps last year in the box, over 400 snaps deep. So again, move him around and have some fun with Xavier Watts. And then that closes things out with pick 64. Philadelphia Eagles are back on the clock. Again, haven't done all these post-draft press conferences, but it kind of seems like Jahad Campbell might be playing a lot of edge rusher for them and not
Wow.
true off-ball linebacker, which is quite fun. And again, there's still so much talent on the board. I mean, so much talent. Maybe he pulls a Jalen Hurts moves and takes a quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. We can get to that comment here in a little bit. Um, there's a bunch of wide receivers as well. If we're looking at even more pass rushers or linebackers
Tight
or
ends.
safeties, there's talents. Tight end, as you mentioned, Terrence Ferguson, Harold Fannin, Elijah Arroyo. I could make the case for any of those guys, any of them with the Philadelphia Eagles. But I think blocking is really important here at wide receiver. I always think working the middle of the field is very important here too. And you and I like Jack Besh a lot out of TCU. So that's where I'm going with Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Right. I think they can upgrade wide receiver 3 very easily. This is Jahan Dotson. Like, I know that they have 2 studs, but if you're trading away Dallas Goedert, like you do need some depth behind your top 2 pass catchers. And like he would play a lot of snaps, and he's
Which he did
way
at
more
LSU. He
physical.
was a tight end for them.
Yeah, maybe he pivots back. Maybe he is the Dallas Goedert replacement. So yeah, I think he's going to go in the second round here. But like you said, there's a lot of good players on the defensive line, tight end that we were not able to sneak in here. And obviously, the headliner for this mock draft would be no Shedeur Sanders. I think just quickly on the Shedeur Sanders stuff. There's First of all, there's other types of quarterbacks that he's competing with in Milrow and Tyler Shuck, who provide totally different skill sets. So that's going to be an issue if a team just values like the dual threat or like ability to start right away. Obviously, I think teams are going to be a little bit concerned with now he's going to be a backup quarterback. How is he going to handle that with the dad? I think that's going to be a little bit of a concern for him as well. And then there's just not that many teams that are like just super desperate for quarterbacks already. And like the teams that have already opted to not take him. Like the Steelers, for example, opted not to take him. They don't have a second round pick, so he can fall. The Saints could have taken him at 9. They opted not to do that. So like, we'll see. We'll see. I keep going back to the Bronny line, 55th overall. Are we going to clear that before, after? We'll see.
And if I'm looking at the third round, which is now what we're into, the New York Giants are not going to select him at 65 overall. Maybe the Cleveland Browns do at 67 overall. Maybe the Las Vegas Raiders at 68 overall as his final destination. That might make the most sense.
Yeah. And then the Steelers go back into the third round. You'll see what happens there. But yeah, there's
Saints at 71 too, because Tyler Shuck is also on the board. I don't believe Tyler Shuck should be a second round pick, but there is a decent chance that he could be based on reporting out there.
We've seen this. Like, if you don't go round 1, there's not that many round 2 quarterbacks historically. I think that we're going to get a couple of them this draft, but like if everyone's decided not to take you, like that means there's no floor.
Steelers at 83, like you mentioned, and then a team maybe looking to the future in the LA Rams at 90. But the LA Rams are kind of in the same boat as the Cleveland Browns, where they've acquired a future first round pick, and if you're going to then prioritize quarterback next year with your multiple selections, then why would you even spend a third round pick, a second round pick on one this year?
Yeah, and he still could go in the top 10 picks of the second round. Totally. So just like
for us, he did not here.
Yeah, I just think that there is no floor at this point. It's like he could go early, but if all the teams in round one skip over you and you're a quarterback, like we've seen this historically, there's a lot more third and fourth round quarterbacks than there are second round quarterbacks typically.
All right, that does it. Once again, Hayden and I will be back here on Saturday evening, immediately at the end of the draft, going through every single team and every single pick. So lock in, hit that subscribe button, leave a thumbs up, go and check out a few of the prospect profiles of the players that your team has selected. Shout out to producer Weave, shout out to all of you up the velo. We'll talk to y'all soon. See ya.